Hi! Last time we implemented the core frontend logic. Today we'll take it to the next level. Here's the plan. Set up local storage to save player's username to fix a bug we found in the last video, implement column highlighting, add game replayability, develop black theme, and adjust the design to look good on different screens. First, let's create a file to work with local storage. For this, we'll add a local storage utils file inside utils folder. There will be two functions. First one will set an item into local storage. For this, it takes game ID and player name. Another one, using game ID, gets an item from local storage. There can be a reference error issue, so to fix this, we have this condition with window. Let's go and update start game page. When the user creates a game, we'll set its username to local storage using the created function. The logic will be similar for join game page. But here, when we load the game data inside the use effect, we'll check if this user already have a saved player name for this game. In this case, the player will be redirected to the board page. Then, inside the play game page, we'll get the player name from the local storage and then use it in our function where we make the move. So we don't need this temporary logic anymore. Next, let's implement column highlighting. For this, we only need to update our play game page. First, we update the game data interface and add a field that will contain a player username whose move it is. Then, inside the game board component, we'll add a highlighted column state variable to know which column should be highlighted. Besides, we'll add two functions for the cases when the user hovers or leaves the column. Then we'll update the game board cell to pass additional data. Then the highlighting logic. We will highlight a particular cell only if the cell value is 0, if the game is not finished, if it's the player that should move now, and if the highlighted column is equal to the column of the cell. Let's use this highlighting logic in our board cell. But before that, we'll specify those two highlighting column functions in onMouse enter and onMouse leave events. Last thing, in our game data, we specified this next player to move username, but we don't return this data from the backend, so let's update it. All we have to do here is to use computed field instead of property. Let's test local storage setup and column highlighting. If you check local storage, you can see that it's empty. If you create the game and check it again, now it's populated with player's username, and you can see that game ID is the same as the one we created. Now, if the second player just opens the game URL, we will see no data. This is because the player name is not set. Now, if the first player opens the URL to join the game, he will be redirected to the play game page. The reason behind it is this logic in join game component. If the second player joins the game, and we will check the local storage, yeah, it contains the player username. When we hover over the board cell, you can see that the column is highlighted, so our logic is working correctly. Since the cell value is 0, and the game is not finished, and right now the first player should move, the whole column is highlighted. If we make the move, now the first player board is not highlighted anymore, because it's the second player's move. When the game is finished, this condition won't pass, so the board is not highlighted. Next, game replayability. To do this, we need to save moves history, so let's update the backend a bit. We'll create a new model called move, and we also add moves field to our game model. Then inside the shortcuts, we'll update the make move function to save a move into the history. Now back to the frontend. We'll add a move data interface and also update game data interface. Then we will pass a setData function into GameInfo component. After this, we will add a state variable called replayInProgress. Then we'll update the GameInfo component to show move number when the replay is in progress and also show the replay button when the game is finished. Inside handleReplayGame game function, we'll check if the replay is in progress to not start another one. Then we will set a replayInProgress to true and also initiate an empty board, meaning a board with zeros. Then we will save our final board and also set our empty board using the setGameData function. Then the most juicy part, timeouts. For each move from the moves history, we will run a setTimeout function. It will take a previous state and apply current move by updating the board with the move's value. If it's the last move, we will set the replayInProgress to false and also set our final board. The reason behind it is because values in the move's history will be either 1 or 2, depending whose move it is. But value 3, the winner, will only be in the final board, so we have this logic to set it. Let's see how it works. First, we'll create and play the game. When we finish the game, we will see the replay game button. Let's take a look how move's history is shown in the API docs. Here we can see the list of moves with move row, call and value. Now let's click replay game button. As you can see, every half a second a new move is made. This is because of the setTimeout logic that we implemented. Now if you set 1 second, game replay will take longer. So yeah, it's working nice. We may switch to Black Sim implementation. First, we need to install a library called Next.js. Then we'll create a providers file, which will have a sim provider wrapper. After this, let's create a sim button component. It will have two variables, mounted and sim. Inside useEffect, we will set mounted to true, and if it's false, we will return null. Then a button that will switch dark and light modes. It will be sun or moon icon, depending on the sim. Now let's add the icons components. After this, according to the library documentation, in Tailwind config, we should set dark mode to class. Next, let's use sim provider wrapper and sim button in the layout. Let's see how it looks now. In the upper left corner, you may notice a sim button. When we click it, the sim is changed. At the moment, our start game page is not adjusted to work with the black sim, so let's update it. In the header for the dark sim, we update the text color. Then we update the colors in pet project button. Same for the player name input. Now the page looks much better. When we create a game, we'll be redirected to the component about waiting for the second player. Let's update it for the black sim. Similar to the previous page, we'll update the colors for the dark mode. What a nice component we got now. After this, let's adjust Join Game page. As we already improved button and input, we only need to change the text. Now the main part, the Play Game page. We update the game info. Then the game board. And game cell. Now it's completely a different page, which looks nice in the dark mode. Next, responsive design. At the moment, our game doesn't look good on the wider screen, and we will fix it now. First, let's add screens to Tailwind config. Next, we update the theme button to be more responsive. For example, here height and width are 9, but for larger screens, meaning larger than 1024 pixels, we'll set it to 10. We update icons in a similar way. Let's take a look how it works. You may notice that at some point the icon becomes bigger, so it works as expected. Next, we update the Play Game page. First, we adjust padding and width in Play Game component. Then we update width in Waiting Player to Join component. Then game info. After this, board cell. Please don't worry about the exact numbers. Try different values and find those that work for you. Let's create a game to see our changes in action. As we can see, our board looks different for different screens. Last thing for today, let's show more data in our game info component. If the game is finished and there is no winner, it's a draw. If the current player is the winner, we will show you won. Otherwise, you lost. Then, if the current player should move now, we'll show it's your turn. Otherwise, we'll display its opponent's turn. If you open the game, the changes will be applied. Whenever the move is made, the data whose move it is updated. When the game is finished, it will be updated to you won, you lost, or it's a draw. And that's all for today. The little tweaks we did might seem small, but together they level up gaming experience big time. Next up, we will put our backend and frontend in Docker containers to simplify deployment to the cloud. Thank you for watching today's video. Stay tuned for our next adventure. Until then, have a fantastic day. Bye.